The space between the two fleets lit up with weapons fire. Carthene dreadnoughts launched massive plasma volleys that could vaporize mountains. Vrelian cruisers responded with missile swarms that numbered in the thousands. Nomathi bioships released organic fighters that moved like schools of fish through space. The battle was chaos, a storm of destruction that stretched across millions of kilometers. And through it all, the 50 human ships remained invisible, waiting. Captain Minho watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Indomitable. The Council forces were fighting well, but the Vrelians had numbers on their side. For every Vrelian ship destroyed, the Council lost 3. The math was simple and brutal. At this rate, the Council would lose. Status on the quantum mines? Minho asked. Lieutenant Jisoo checked her systems. Deployed and armed. 3,000 mines scattered throughout the battlefield. The Vrelians have no idea they're there. Gravitic generators. Ready and positioned. We can activate them on your command. Drone status? All 25,000 drones are ready for deployment. We've updated their programming based on Vrelian countermeasures. They'll adapt faster this time. Minho nodded. And the equalizer? Engineer Hana's voice came through tense. Armed and ready, Captain. But I'm begging you, that weapon is, I know, Hana, last resort only. He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. 50 ship captains looked back at him from his screen. Some were nervous. Some were excited. All of them were ready. They think they know us, Minho said quietly. They studied one battle and think they understand how humans fight. They're wrong. What they saw before was us being cautious. Today, they see what happens when humans decide to win at any cost. Execute Phase 1, the quantum mines activated. Across the battlefield, Vrelian ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by explosions. The mines used quantum entanglement to exist in multiple locations at once. They appeared next to Vrelian vessels, detonated, and disappeared before the enemy could even understand what was happening. Supreme War Master Korvath, commanding the Vrelian assault from his flagship, watched in confusion as his ships began taking damage from invisible sources. What is attacking us? He demanded. Unknown, sir. The weapons appear and disappear instantly. Our sensors detect them only microseconds before impact. Deploy all countermeasures. Find the source. But there was no source to find. The mines existed in a quantum state, appearing only at the moment of attack. Vrelian sensors, designed to detect physical objects moving through space, were useless against weapons that bent the rules of reality. 50 Vrelian ships were destroyed or crippled in the first minute. Then the human ships decloaked. They appeared scattered throughout the Vrelian formation, exactly where they wanted to be. Before the enemy could react, 25,000 combat drones launched from their hidden bays. This time the drones were smarter. They had learned from the previous battle. The Vrelians activated their anti-drone countermeasures. Electromagnetic pulses swept through space. In the last battle, these pulses had destroyed hundreds of drones. This time the drones were ready. They had adapted their shielding. The pulses barely affected them. The drone swarms descended on the Vrelian fleet like locusts. They didn't just attack randomly. They coordinated through their shared AI network, focusing on specific targets, communications arrays, sensor systems, weapon mounts. Each drone knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect. Railguns fire at will, Minho ordered. 300 tungsten rounds launched simultaneously from the 50 human ships. At 0.3% of light speed, they were impossible to dodge and nearly impossible to stop. The Vrelian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, did nothing against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 100 Vrelian ships exploded in the span of 10 seconds. The kinetic energy released was devastating. Some ships simply vaporized, others were torn apart, their hulls unable to withstand the force. Korvath watched his fleet being dismantled and felt something Vrelian warriors rarely experienced: fear. All ships target those 50 human vessels. Ignore everything else. Destroy them. 500 Vrelian ships turned their weapons toward the human fleet. Plasma bolts, missiles, and energy beams filled space, all aimed at the 50 small frigates that had caused so much destruction. Evasive maneuvers, Minho shouted. The human ships scattered like birds fleeing a predator. They moved with impossible precision, each pilot executing maneuvers practiced 1,000 times. They twisted and turned through the weapons fire, their smaller size and superior agility making them nearly impossible to hit. But there were too many weapons. Too many enemies. One human ship, the HSS Thunder, took a direct hit. Her shields failed. Her hull breached. Thunder is down, Jisoo reported. They're venting atmosphere. Life support failing. Minho felt his chest tighten. First casualties. Dispatch rescue drones. Get that crew out of there. But there was no time for rescue operations. The Vrelian fleet was pressing their advantage, converging on the human ships from all sides. Captain, we're surrounded, Commander Subin reported from his ship. They're herding us into a kill zone. Minho looked at the tactical display. Subin was right. The Vrelians had given up trying to hit individual human ships and were instead creating a sphere of overlapping fire. Anywhere the human ships moved, they would be hit by multiple weapons at once. Time to show them something new, Minho said. All ships activate gravitic shear generators. Across the fleet, 10 generators per ship powered up. 500 total. They were humanity's most experimental weapons, devices that could create localized tears in the fabric of space-time. The generators activated. Space itself screamed. Gravitational anomalies formed throughout the battlefield, creating currents and eddies in the void. Vrelian ships, massive and heavy, were pulled off course by the sudden gravitational forces. They collided with each other, unable to compensate. 3 Vrelian cruisers crashed together at high speed. Their shields collapsed. Their hulls crumpled like paper. The explosions created secondary damage, catching nearby ships in the blast radius. The kill zone formation broke apart. The Vrelian fleet lost cohesion as ships struggled to maintain position against the gravitational distortions. The human ships, smaller and more agile, slipped through the chaos unharmed. Railguns reloaded, Hana reported. Firing again. Another 300 tungsten rounds launched. Another 100 Vrelian ships died. The battlefield was a graveyard of wreckage and fire. The Council forces, seeing humanity's devastating attack, found renewed courage. Admiral Vorith led the Carthene dreadnoughts in a massive push, their heavy weapons tearing through Vrelian lines. The Nomathi bioships coordinated with human drones, creating a deadly dance of organic and mechanical death. The Pelthene energy cruisers timed their strikes to match human railgun volleys, maximizing damage. For the first time since the war began, the Council forces were winning. But Korvath was not finished. He had been saving his elite guard, 300 of his best ships, for a final assault. He ordered them forward in a suicide charge targeting the human fleet directly. All available ships ram those human vessels. We will not be defeated by these mammals. 300 Vrelian ships charged forward at maximum speed, ignoring all other targets. They didn't care about tactics or survival. They just wanted to destroy the humans who had humiliated them. Minho saw them coming. 300 ships in a concentrated formation, moving at ramming speed. The human fleet couldn't evade them all. Even with their superior agility, some human ships would be hit. More people would die. He made his decision. All ships, emergency jump to coordinates I'm transmitting. Get clear of the battle zone now. Sir, we can't abandon the Council forces, Jisoo protested. We're not abandoning anyone. Trust me. The 49 operational human ships jumped away, disappearing into faster-than-light space. The Vrelian suicide charge found nothing but empty space where their targets had been. But the Indomitable didn't jump. Minho had stayed behind. Captain, what are you doing? Hana shouted through the comm. Something I hope never to do again, Minho replied quietly. He opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Kwan appeared on his screen. Sir, requesting authorization to deploy the equalizer. Admiral Kwan's face was grim. How bad is it? 300 enemy ships in suicide formation. If they reach the Council lines, casualties will be catastrophic. I can stop them, but I need authorization. There was a pause that lasted only seconds but felt like hours. Then Admiral Kwan nodded. Authorization granted. May God forgive us. Minho closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened a ship-wide channel. All crew, this is the captain. Evacuate to escape pods immediately. This is not a drill. You have 90 seconds. Sir, what are you doing? Lieutenant Jisoo asked, her voice panicked. Following orders, Lieutenant. Now go, that's a direct order. Jisoo hesitated, then nodded. She ran for the escape pods with the rest of the crew. Within 80 seconds, the Indomitable was empty except for Captain Minho on the bridge. He powered up the equalizer. It was a device humanity had discovered by accident during experimental faster-than-light research. It could destabilize the exotic matter used in jump drives, creating a cascade effect. The Council considered weapons like this to be war crimes if used against civilian populations. The human fleet arrived at the primary defense line 3 days later. What they found was the largest gathering of military ships in galactic history. Carthene dreadnoughts floated like small moons, their weapons arrays capable of destroying planets. Nomathi bioships pulsed with organic light, grown from living organisms over decades. Silicate crystalline vessels refracted starlight into rainbow patterns. Ships from 47 different species, representing 47 different approaches to warfare. And then there were the 50 human frigates, each barely 400 meters long. They looked like children's toys next to the massive alien vessels. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the other ships pass by on his displays. Admiral Vorath had sent coordinates for where the human fleet should position itself. Right in the center of the defense line, a position of honor. "They're putting us where the fighting will be heaviest," Lieutenant Jisoo observed. "They want to see what we can really do," Minho replied. "Last time was a raiding party. This time intelligence says we're facing the Vrelian main assault force. 2,000 ships. 40-1 odds." "Yes," Engineer Hana's voice came through the comm. "Captain, I'm getting requests from 17 different species asking about our technology. They want to know how the drones work, how we hide from sensors, how the railguns achieve such velocity." "What should I tell them?" "Tell them we'll share information after the battle. Right now, we need to focus on staying alive." The truth was more complicated. Earth's government had strict rules about sharing military technology with alien species. Yes, they were allies now, but alliances could change. Humanity had learned hard lessons about keeping some advantages secret. A communication came through from Admiral Vorath's flagship. "Captain Minho, this is Admiral Vorath. I'm sending over tactical coordination protocols. Your fleet will work with my dreadnoughts on the center right flank." "Understood, Admiral. We're reviewing the protocols now." "Captain, I must ask. In your previous battle, you faced 4-1 odds and won decisively. Now you face 40-1. Are you confident you can succeed?" Minho considered his answer carefully. "Admiral, humanity has a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." "We're ready." "I hope so, Captain. The Vrelians are not underestimating you anymore. They know what you did to their raiding party. They will be prepared. So will we." The next 2 days passed in tense preparation. The Council fleet practiced coordinated maneuvers. It was like watching a complicated dance where none of the dancers spoke the same language. The Carthene preferred massive formations that advanced slowly but steadily. The Nomathi used organic swarm tactics. The Silicates relied on precise, calculated strikes. Trying to make them all work together was nearly impossible. The human fleet practiced separately. They ran through their own drills, testing weapons systems that the other species didn't know existed. The quantum mines were deployed in test patterns, each one capable of appearing in multiple locations at once through quantum entanglement. The gravitic shear generators were calibrated to create localized gravitational distortions that could tear ships apart. And deep in the Indomitable's weapon vault, locked behind multiple security systems, sat the Equalizer, the weapon that Captain Minho hoped he would never have to use. Corporal Taeyang led a meeting of the fleet's pilots. They were the ones who would fly the ships through impossible situations, dodging weapons fire while positioning for attack runs. "The Vrelians know our tricks now," Taeyang said. "They've had time to study the sensor logs from Sector 7. They know about the drones. They know about the stealth systems. They know about the railguns. So we need to be better than last time, faster, smarter, more unpredictable." One of the younger pilots raised her hand. "Corporal, what if they've figured out how to counter everything we have?" "Then we improvise. That's what makes us human. We adapt. Every other species in this fleet has been fighting the same way for centuries. They have doctrine and tradition. We have flexibility. When something doesn't work, we try something else immediately." Meanwhile, in the Council Command Center on the massive space station Apex Prime, military leaders debated strategy. High Chancellor Vethis presided over the meeting. "Intelligence confirms the Vrelian assault force is gathering at the edge of our sensor range," she announced. 2,000 warships. They will attack within 72 hours. A Pelthene commander spoke up. "Our fleet numbers over 100,000 ships. The Vrelians are vastly outnumbered. Why don't we go on the offensive and attack them before they're ready?" Admiral Vorath shook his head. The Vrelians chose the attack point carefully. "If we pursue them, we'll be stretched thin and vulnerable to ambush. Better to let them come to us where we control the defensive position. Ambassador Deho listened quietly. He knew something the others didn't. Earth's intelligence service had intercepted Vrelian communications. The 2,000 ships were not a desperate attack. They were specifically sent to destroy the human fleet. The Vrelians wanted revenge, and they wanted to prove that humanity's victory had been luck, not skill. After the meeting, Daiho sent a coded message to Captain Minho. The enemy is coming for you specifically. They want to make an example of the human fleet. Be ready. Minho read the message and smiled grimly. They want to make an example of us. Let's make sure we're the right kind of example. He gathered his senior officers one final time before the battle. You all know the situation. The enemy is coming in overwhelming force. They're equipped to counter our previous tactics. The entire council fleet will be watching to see if we can repeat our success. No pressure. That got a few nervous laughs. Here's what the Vrelians don't know. They studied one battle, one engagement. They think they understand us now. But that battle was us being careful. We held back because we didn't want to scare the council with the full extent of our capabilities. He activated a holographic display showing various weapon systems. This time, we don't hold back. We use every advantage we have. The quantum mines will make them think they're fighting ghosts. The gravitic generators will tear their formations apart. And if necessary, we use the equalizer. Commander Subin looked concerned. Sir, the equalizer is— I know what it is, Minho interrupted. But I'd rather use it and survive than hold back and lose. We're not here to fight fair. We're here to win. Jisoo pulled up tactical simulations. I've run the numbers 300 times. With optimal execution, we have a 63% chance of victory. That climbs to 82% if we use the equalizer. And if we don't execute optimally? Taeyang asked. Then we die and the council loses their most effective tactical asset. The room went quiet. Minho stood up. Let me be clear about something. I don't plan on dying. I don't plan on any of us dying. We're going to face 2,000 ships and we're going to win, not because we're stronger, not because we're bigger, but because we're human and humans are survivors. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own worst instincts. We're still here. We're still fighting. And we're going to show the galaxy what that means. He looked at each of them in turn. Go back to your ships. Make sure your crews are ready. Get some rest if you can. When the enemy comes, I want everyone at their best. That night, Lieutenant Jisoo couldn't sleep. She found herself in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. And somewhere out there, 2,000 enemy ships were preparing to destroy everything she cared about. Hana found her there. Couldn't sleep either. Too much thinking. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then Hana said, You know, when I was designing these weapons, I sometimes felt guilty. We created things specifically to kill as efficiently as possible. The drones that swarm like insects. The railguns that punch through ships like they're made of paper. The quantum mines that appear in multiple places at once. All designed to maximize death and destruction. Why are you telling me this? Because I realized something. We didn't create these weapons because we enjoy killing. We created them because we're surrounded by species that are bigger, stronger, and more numerous than us. These weapons are how we survive, how we protect not just ourselves but all the smaller species in the council who can't protect themselves. Jisoo nodded slowly. We fight so others don't have to. Exactly. The alert came 18 hours later. Long-range sensors detected jump signatures. 2,000 of them. The Vrelian assault force had arrived. Every ship in the council fleet went to battle stations. Crews that had been resting minutes ago now scrambled to their positions. Weapon systems powered up, shields activated, communications channels filled with chatter in dozens of languages. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Minho watched the tactical display. 2,000 red dots appeared at the edge of the system, already moving into attack formation. They weren't subtle. They weren't trying to be clever. They were simply advancing like a wall of death, confident that their numbers would overwhelm any defense. All human ships, this is Captain Minho. Execute Protocol Phantom. Let's show them what we learned since last time. The 50 human ships activated their stealth systems and disappeared from sensors. But this time they didn't just hide. The Vrelian ships vanished into jump space, leaving behind wreckage and confusion. 67 ships destroyed, 43 disabled and drifting. Less than 90 had escaped intact. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers, still glowing from explosions and reactor fires. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the aftermath on his displays. Around him, his crew was silent. They had done it. 50 ships against 200, and they had won. Damage report, Minho said quietly. Lieutenant Jisoo checked her systems. HSS Thunder took a direct hit to her port side. Hull breach on 3 decks, but they're stable. HSS Morning lost her main communications array. HSS Victory has engine damage and is operating at 60% power. All other ships have minor damage only. Casualties? 43 injured across the fleet. No deaths. Minho closed his eyes for a moment. No deaths. Against 200 enemy ships, they had lost no one. Drone status? We deployed 25,000 drones. 14,000 survived the battle. They're returning to their ships now for repair and recharge. Engineer Hana's voice came through. Captain, the railguns performed perfectly. We used 30% of our ammunition. We have enough for at least 2 more engagements at this scale. Good work, everyone. Begin recovery operations. I want damage repaired within 12 hours. Minho opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Captain Minho. Today you proved something that needed proving. We're not the biggest fleet. We're not the strongest. But we're smart, we're fast, and we're survivors. Well done. He switched to the Council command frequency. This is Captain Minho to Council headquarters. Sector 7 is secure. Enemy force repelled. 200 Vrelian ships engaged. 67 destroyed, 43 disabled, 90 retreated. Human fleet status, 50 ships operational, minor damage, 0 casualties. There was a long silence on the other end. Then a different voice came through. Admiral Vorath of the Carthene, the same one who had laughed at humanity's contribution. Captain Minho, repeat your last transmission. Did you say 0 casualties? That is correct, Admiral. Against 200 ships? Correct. Another pause. How? Minho allowed himself a small smile. We're humanity, Admiral. We've been fighting wars since we lived in caves. We learned a long time ago that size doesn't matter as much as tactics. I need to see the sensor logs. I need to understand what you did. Sending them now. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in chaos when the battle recordings played. Military analysts from every species watched the footage over and over, trying to understand what they were seeing. Small autonomous machines swarming like insects. Kinetic weapons moving at speeds that made them invisible until impact. Ships disappearing and reappearing in perfect coordination. Psychological warfare broadcasts that disrupted enemy communications. Tactics that no Council species had ever considered. Ambassador Daiho stood at the human podium, watching the debate unfold. Species that had laughed at him too, weeks ago now, looked at him with very different expressions: respect, fear, calculation. They were all reassessing what humanity meant to the Council. High Chancellor Vethis called for order. The Council acknowledges humanity's victory. Captain Minho and his fleet have exceeded all expectations. Admiral Vorath stood, and his voice held none of its earlier mockery. High Chancellor, I formally request that humanity's fleet be reassigned from Sector 7 to the primary defense line. If 50 human ships can do this, we need them on the front lines. Other voices joined in agreement. The Pelthene, the Nomathi, even the Proud Silicate Collective. They all wanted the humans moved to more critical positions. Daiho raised his hand for silence. The Human Federation appreciates the Council's confidence. We will serve wherever we are needed most. However, I must be honest about something. The chamber went quiet. What you saw in that battle was just the beginning. We designed these ships and tactics specifically for this kind of warfare. We have more capabilities that we have not yet revealed. We held back because we did not want to show all our cards at once. This caused another wave of reaction. Admiral Vorath's eyes widened. You held back? That display was you holding back? Yes, Admiral. We come from a world where we spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We developed weapons and tactics that most species would consider cruel or excessive. We did not want to frighten the Council with the full extent of what we're capable of. A Nomathi representative spoke up, their voice gentle. Ambassador Daiho, we are not frightened. We are grateful. You are on our side. But not everyone felt that way. A Vrothian delegate stood up, their scaled face showing concern. This is troubling. Humanity has been part of the Council for only 23 years. You are still considered a young species. Yet you possess military capabilities that surpass species who have been spacefaring for millennia. How is this possible? Deho chose his words carefully. We developed these technologies out of necessity. Earth is one world, but it had over 200 nations, thousands of cultures, and countless conflicts. We either learned to fight efficiently or we would have destroyed ourselves. Many times we came close to extinction. We survived by becoming very, very good at war. The Vrothian was not satisfied, and now you bring those capabilities to the Council. Should we be concerned? No, Deho said firmly. We brought them to protect the Council. The Vrelians are not the only threat in the galaxy. There will be others. Would you prefer we had hidden our abilities and let more people die? High Chancellor Vethis intervened. Enough. Ambassador Deho, the Council accepts your fleet's reassignment to the primary defense line. You will coordinate with Admiral Vorith's forces. We will also be requesting detailed information on your tactical methods so that other species can learn from them. We will share what we can, Deho agreed, though some technologies are specifically designed for human biology and psychology. They may not work the same way for other species. Back in Sector 7, the human fleet completed its repairs. Captain Minho received orders to move to the front lines within 48 hours. He gathered his officers to discuss what came next. They're moving us to where the real fighting is, Commander Subin said. The Vrelians will be ready for us next time. They know our tricks now. Some of our tricks, Minho corrected. We showed them the drones and the railguns. We showed them we can hide from sensors. We didn't show them everything. Jisoo looked worried. Sir, intelligence reports that the Vrelians are already adapting. They're installing anti-drone systems on their ships. They're reinforcing their armor against kinetic weapons. They're upgrading their sensors. Good, Minho said, surprising everyone. Let them adapt. Let them think they've figured us out. Meanwhile, we prepare the second wave. Hana smiled. The special weapons. The special weapons, Minho confirmed. How many quantum mines do we have? 3,000 across the fleet. Each one can create up to 5 simultaneous detonations in different locations. And the gravitic shear generators? 10 per ship. 500 total. They're experimental, but tests show they work. Taeyang leaned forward. Captain, are we really going to use the equalizer? That weapon is— I know what it is, Minho interrupted. It's a last resort. But we need to have it ready. If the Vrelians commit their main fleet and we're facing thousands of ships, we need something that can change the game instantly. The equalizer could be considered a war crime by Council standards, Subin pointed out. Only if we target civilian populations, Minho said. Against military vessels in open combat, it's just another weapon. A terrifying one, yes, but just a weapon. They spent the next 2 days preparing. The fleet tested new formations. They practiced deploying the quantum mines in combat conditions. They ran simulations of battles against larger forces, adjusting their tactics based on how the Vrelians might adapt. Jisoo found herself working late one night, reviewing tactical data. Taeyang brought her coffee. You should rest, he said. Can't. Too much to analyze. She gestured at her displays. The Vrelians are not stupid. They'll adapt quickly. We need to stay ahead of them. You worried? Terrified, Jisoo admitted. Against 200 ships, we had surprise on our side. Next time, we might face thousands. And they'll know we're coming. Taeyang sat down next to her. You know why Captain Minho chose you as tactical officer? Because I graduated top of my class? No. Because during the Academy War Games, you were the only student who consistently beat scenarios designed to be unwinnable. You don't give up. You find ways. Jisoo smiled slightly. Those were simulations. This is real. Same principle. The enemy is bigger and stronger, so we be smarter and faster. That's what humans do. On the bridge, Minho stared at the star charts showing the primary defense line. It was a massive formation of council ships stretching across 3 star systems, over 100,000 vessels from 47 species. The largest military force ever assembled in known space, and somewhere out there, the Vrelian Empire was preparing its response. Intelligence suggested they were gathering forces for a major offensive. Not just raiding parties this time. A full invasion force. Minho opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Kwan's face appeared. The Council is moving us to the front, Minho reported. I heard. They're finally taking you seriously. 2 weeks passed in Sector 7. The 50 human ships maintained their positions along the supply routes, watching and waiting. 3 times, large Council supply convoys passed through their sector. Each time, the convoy escorts barely acknowledged the human presence. Captain Minho used the quiet time well. Every day the crews ran combat drills. They practiced formations that looked chaotic but were actually precise. They tested weapons systems that did not appear on any official inventory. They ran simulations over and over until every crew member could execute complex maneuvers in their sleep. Lieutenant Jisoo stood at her tactical station, reviewing the latest drill results. Captain, all ships are now at 98% efficiency in the swarm deployment drill. The slowest ship can release all 500 drones in under 40 seconds. Make it 30 seconds, Minho said. In real combat, 40 seconds is a lifetime. Yes, sir. Engineer Hana's voice came through the comm from the engine room. Captain, I need to show you something. Can you come down here? Minho found Hana in the weapons bay, standing next to what looked like an ordinary missile rack. She was a short woman with oil stains on her uniform and a constant look of concentration on her face. She had designed half of the modifications to the human ships. What am I looking at? Minho asked. Hana pressed a button. The missile rack slid aside, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside were rows of small devices, each about the size of a football. These are the drones, Hana explained. Each ship carries 500. They're packed with AI processors, plasma cutters, and small explosive charges. When we release them, they'll link together through a shared network. They learn and adapt in real time. The Council thinks we only have standard missiles, Minho said. Exactly. Their scans saw the missile racks. They didn't see what was behind them. Hana smiled. I also installed the railgun arrays. 6 on each ship. They're hidden inside the hull plating. The Council scanners detected standard plasma cannons, which we do have. They never thought to look deeper. And the railguns will work? They'll accelerate tungsten rounds to 0.3% of light speed. At that velocity, a round the size of your arm will hit with more force than a nuclear weapon. The best part? Most alien shields are designed to deflect energy weapons. They're not designed to stop physical projectiles moving that fast. Minho nodded slowly. What about the stealth coating? Active and tested. When we go dark, we'll disappear from almost every type of sensor in the galaxy. The coating absorbs electromagnetic radiation and breaks up our heat signature. We won't be invisible, but we'll be close. That evening, Minho gathered his senior officers in the conference room. Besides Jisoo and Hana, there was Corporal Taeyang, the best pilot in the fleet, and Commander Subin, who led the second squadron. Intelligence reports are coming in, Minho said, displaying a holographic star map. The Vrelians have been probing Council defenses across 5 sectors. They send small raiding parties, usually between 100 and 300 ships. Fast attacks. They hit supply convoys, destroy what they can, and jump away before the main defense fleets can respond. The Council's big ships are too slow, Taeyang said. By the time a Carthene dreadnought gets to the fight, the raiders are already gone. Exactly, Minho agreed. The Council is built for big battles between massive fleets. They're not prepared for hit-and-run tactics. But we are. Subin leaned forward. You think they'll hit our sector? I know they will. We look like the weakest link. 50 small ships far from support, protecting valuable supply routes. It's a perfect target. Jisoo pulled up more data. Based on their pattern, I estimate they'll send a raiding force within the next 72 hours. Probably around 200 ships. They'll want to make a statement by wiping us out quickly. 200 against 50, Hana said quietly. 4-1, Minho stood up. In traditional combat, those odds would be impossible. Good thing we don't fight traditionally. Everyone knows their roles? They all nodded. Then we wait. The wait lasted 53 hours. Jisoo was on duty when the long-range sensors picked up the jump signatures. She immediately sounded the alert. Captain to the bridge. We have contacts. Minho arrived within seconds. The main display showed 200 red dots appearing at the edge of the sector. The computer identified them as Vrelian warships, each one nearly a kilometer long. They're not hiding, Taeyang observed. Coming straight at us in standard battle formation. They don't think they need to hide, Minho said. To them, we're just target practice. All ships go to combat stations. Execute Protocol Shadow. Across the fleet, crews scrambled to their positions. The 50 human ships activated their stealth systems. Their power signatures dropped. Their heat signatures vanished. To the Vrelian sensors, it would look like the human ships had simply disappeared. Minho opened a channel to Council headquarters. This is Captain Minho. We have 200 Vrelian ships entering Sector 7. We are engaging. The response came from a Carthene officer.
Captain, you are vastly outnumbered.
Fall back immediately and wait for reinforcement. Negative. We hold this line. Captain, that's suicide. You have 50 ships against 200. We'll manage. Minho out. He closed the channel before they could argue further. Around him, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. No panic, no fear. Just focus. Lieutenant Jisoo, are we recording everything? Yes, sir. Full sensor recordings on all channels. The Council will see every second of this. Good. I want them to see what we can do. The Vrelian fleet approached. They moved in a tight formation, weapons charging. Their commander, War Master Crothy, was confident. He had reviewed the intelligence on the human ships. Small vessels with weak weapons and thin armor. This would be easy. Where are they? One of his officers asked. Our sensors show nothing. They ran, Crotha laughed. The mammals fled before we even fired a shot. Find their jump signatures. We'll hunt them down. Sir, I'm picking up something. Multiple small contacts all around us. What? Crotha looked at his tactical display. Suddenly, his sensors lit up with thousands of tiny contacts. They were everywhere, inside his formation, moving fast. What are those? Before anyone could answer, the first explosions began. The human ships had released their drones. 25,000 small machines flooded into the Vrelian formation like angry hornets. They were too small and fast for the Vrelian weapons to track effectively. They swarmed over the hulls of the larger ships, attaching themselves and going to work. Plasma cutters burned through armor. Small explosives targeted sensor arrays and weapon mounts. The drones worked with terrifying intelligence, coordinating their attacks through their shared network. When the Vrelians tried to use point defense weapons to shoot them down, the drones adapted, changing their approach patterns. Crotha watched in horror as his fleet began to take damage. Deploy countermeasures. Use electromagnetic pulses. The Vrelians activated anti-drone systems. Pulses of electromagnetic energy swept through space, destroying hundreds of drones. But there were 25,000 of them, and they were learning. The second wave of drones changed their shielding frequencies to resist the pulses. Then the human ships decloaked. They didn't appear where the Vrelians expected. They materialized scattered throughout the Vrelian formation, in positions carefully calculated to maximize confusion. 50 ships against 200, but the 50 were exactly where they wanted to be. Fire railguns, Minho ordered. The hidden weapons activated. Tungsten rounds launched at impossible speeds. They crossed the space between ships in less than a second. The Vrelian shields, designed to deflect plasma and energy beams, might as well have been paper. 12 Vrelian ships simply exploded, their hulls pierced by rounds moving at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy released was devastating. 20 more ships suffered critical damage. Atmosphere vented into space. Power systems failed. Engines went dark. Reload time 60 seconds, Hana reported. All ships holding position. Jisoo watched her tactical display. Sir, they're trying to reorganize. They're confused but not broken yet. Then let's break them. Activate the music. This was the part Minho had argued with Admiral Kwan about. It seemed strange, even cruel. But psychological warfare had always been part of human combat doctrine. The human ships began broadcasting. Not threats, not demands for surrender. Music, heavy drums, aggressive rhythms. Human voices singing war songs in a dozen different languages. Mixed with the music were specific sound frequencies, chosen carefully after studying Vrelian biology, frequencies that triggered fear responses in their nervous systems. The Vrelian crews began to panic. They couldn't see their enemy clearly. Their ships were being torn apart by invisible weapons and tiny machines. And now this horrible noise filled their communication systems, making coordination impossible. They're breaking formation, Jisoo reported. 31 ships destroyed, 43 severely damaged. The rest are pulling back. Crotha tried to rally his forces. All ships concentrate fire on Sector 3. Target those human vessels. But it was too late. The human ships moved like dancers through the chaos, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. They used the Vrelian ship's own mass against them, herding the larger vessels into clusters where they blocked each other's firing lines. The lights in the Galactic Council chamber were bright and cold. Ambassador Deho stood at the human podium, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, representatives from 47 different alien species filled the massive circular room. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like walking crystals. All of them were older than humanity when it came to space travel. The emergency meeting had been called 3 hours ago. Deho knew what was coming. Everyone knew. The Vrelian Empire had finally declared war. High Chancellor Vethis spoke first. She was a silicate, her body made of living crystal that reflected rainbow colors when she moved. Her voice echoed through the chamber like wind chimes. The Vrelian Empire has crossed into council space with hostile intent. They have destroyed 2 mining colonies and killed thousands. We must respond with force. Every member species will contribute ships to the defense fleet. One by one, the species announced their contributions. The Carthian ambassador stood, his 4 arms spread wide. The Carthian Empire offers 2,000 dreadnoughts. Each ship is 5 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to destroy a moon. Applause filled the chamber. The Nomathi representative, a creature that looked like floating jellyfish, pulsed with bioluminescent light. The Nomathi Collective will deploy 5,000 bioships grown from our homeworld's ocean gardens. More applause. The announcements continued. 10,000 ships here, 15,000 there. The numbers grew larger and larger. The Council's combined fleet would number over 100,000 vessels. Then it was humanity's turn. Deho stepped forward. He had been a military strategist before becoming a diplomat. He knew what the numbers meant. He also knew what humanity could offer. The Human Federation will contribute 50 ships to the defense fleet. Silence fell over the chamber. It lasted for 3 seconds. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon, half the chamber was filled with the sounds of alien laughter. Admiral Vorith of the Carthian stood up, his massive frame shaking with amusement. 50 ships? Did you say 50? We bring 2,000 dreadnoughts and you bring 50 toys? More laughter. Even High Chancellor Vethis seemed to have trouble maintaining her diplomatic composure. Deho waited for the noise to die down. His face showed nothing. No anger, no embarrassment, nothing. 50 ships, he repeated, each 400 meters long. They will serve wherever the Council needs them. Admiral Vorith wiped his eyes. 400 meters? My personal shuttle is bigger than that. Humans, you have been in space for what, 70 years? Perhaps you should leave the fighting to species who know what they are doing. The Pelthian representative, a being made of energy contained in a force field, spoke up. Perhaps the humans can guard supply depots? Surely 50 small ships can manage that. More laughter. Deho noticed that not everyone was laughing. The Nomathi representative watched quietly. So did a few others. But most of the council clearly thought humanity's contribution was a joke. High Chancellor Vethis raised her hand for silence. The council accepts all contributions regardless of size. Ambassador Deho, your fleet will be assigned to Sector 7, protecting supply routes in the outer march. It is far from the main battle lines, but every position matters. Deho bowed. We will serve with honor. As he left the chamber, he heard the whispers and quiet laughter following him. 50 ships. The smallest contribution in council history. Some species brought more ships than that just as escorts. Back in his quarters, Deho opened a secure communication channel. The face that appeared on the screen was weathered and hard. Admiral Kwan, commander of Earth's home fleet, they laughed, Deho said. I heard, Admiral Kwan replied. The whole broadcast went out. Social media back home is already calling it the Great Humiliation. Are the ships ready? Admiral Kwan smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Captain Minho reports all 50 vessels are fully equipped. The modifications are complete. The council scanned our ships and saw exactly what we wanted them to see. And what we didn't want them to see, hidden in plain sight. Just like we planned. 3 days later, the 50 human ships assembled at the departure point. Each vessel was a sleek frigate, gray and unremarkable. Their hulls were smooth, with standard plasma cannons visible on the sides. Standard shield generators, standard engines. Everything about them looked basic, even primitive compared to the massive alien warships nearby. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, the flagship of humanity's small fleet. He was 42 years old and had fought in Earth's last war, when the Asian Alliance and the American Federation finally unified under one government. That war had taught him many things. The most important lesson was that size did not equal victory. Status report, he said. Lieutenant Jisoo looked up from her tactical station. She was young, only 26, but she had graduated at the top of her class. All 50 ships report ready, Captain. Crews are at full readiness. Special systems are armed and hidden. Engineer Hana? A woman's voice came through the comm. All modifications are stable, Captain. The Council's scanning team saw our ships 3 times. Each time they only detected our standard weapons. They have no idea what else we're carrying. Captain Minho allowed himself a small smile. Good, very good. He opened a channel to all 50 ships. The faces of 49 other captains appeared on his screen. Men and women from every part of Earth. Japanese, Korean, Nigerian, Brazilian, Russian, Egyptian. All of them veterans, all of them survivors. You all heard the laughter, Minho said. You all know what they think of us. 50 toy ships, too small to matter, a joke. An embarrassment, he paused, looking at each face. They don't know us. They don't know what humanity has survived. Ice ages, plagues, world wars where we threw nuclear fire at each other. We are still here because we learned one simple truth. You don't need to be the biggest. You need to be the smartest. One of the captains, Commander Subin of the HSS Tempest, spoke up. What are our orders, sir? We go to Sector 7. We protect the supply routes. We wait. And when the enemy comes, and they will come, we show the galaxy what 50 human ships can do. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. 50 small ships disappearing into the darkness of space. Behind them, at the main fleet assembly point, alien crews watched them go with amusement. Some placed bets on how quickly the humans would retreat when they saw real combat. None of them knew the truth. None of them understood what they had just dismissed. Humanity had not sent 50 ships because that was all they had. They had sent 50 ships because that was all they needed. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Minho looked at the star map. Sector 7 was quiet now. But intelligence suggested the Vrelians liked to test defenses with small raiding parties. They would come eventually. Lieutenant Jisoo, begin running combat simulations. I want every crew member to practice our special tactics at least 50 times before we reach our position. Yes, sir. What scenario should we use? Minho thought for a moment. Start with scenario where we face 200 enemy ships. 4-to-1 odds. Jisoo's eyes widened slightly. Sir, that's what I expect we'll face, Minho interrupted. The Vrelians will see 50 human ships and think we're easy prey. They'll send a raiding force to wipe us out quickly. It will be their first mistake. And their last, sir? Minho's smile was cold and hard. If we do our job right, Lieutenant. If we do our job right. The 50 ships reached Sector 7 and took up positions along the supply routes. They spread out, maintaining communication through quantum links. To any observer, they looked like a thin, weak defense line. They were anything but.